Yo guys, welcome back. My name is Nathan and today we're going to be talking about 5 different Bo Horvat trades that can actually happen. And we've heard a ton of trade rumors recently about Bo Horvat and what we could potentially see in a trade and what the Canucks could get back. But who are the teams that will be in on Bo Horvat and what would a Bo Horvat trade look like come trade deadline time? Watch till the end for all the mock trades and all the trade talk and hit that subscribe button if you are new. 50% of you guys aren't subscribed, so subscribe for more hockey content just like this. Now, the reason I wanted to talk about this today is the fact that this Pierre LeBrun article gave us so much info on what the Canucks are specifically looking for in a Bo Horvat trade, and we can get a good idea of what a Bo Horvat trade would look like eventually. Now, when it comes to Pierre LeBrun, he put out this article saying more on Canucks Horvat and a bunch of weekly rumblings. But from Tad, who ended up giving some quotes from the article, Pierre LeBrun said this: assume the Canucks would be asking for a futures-only package as selling, retooling teams most often do, but so far, seems that the Vancouver Canucks are looking instead for more of a hockey deal, to upgrade at center ice and or right shot D if possible, and bring in a player in the 20-something range. And then more as well in the article. I think it tells you a couple of things. This is what they're looking for. First, it tells you that the Canucks don't feel that competing for a playoff spot this season is far-fetched. And this to me is absolutely nuts. But at the same time, it's how the Canucks feel. And if they do want to upgrade, there are a lot of options out there potentially in a deal. But let's take a moment here to welcome today's sponsor in World Hockey Manager. The best way to create your custom team and franchise is with World Hockey Manager, free on iOS and Android. Develop homegrown talents, train your players, and scout for new signings. There's so many things to do to get your team right to the top. One of my favorite parts is upgrading the stadiums and your arenas and facilities to just make your franchise the most formidable it can be. And as you get your team ready, you can face off against other teams worldwide in the daily rank games and tournaments. But the customization is really the best part in my opinion. So much to do, and especially if your team, you can play them exactly how you like. If you want them to be more offensive, you want them to pinch more, you can do that. You can set the lines and the ice time for each, and you can really customize what you want your team to look like. And for the holiday season, not only will all weekend rewards be boosted, but the holidays will also feature unique weekly player and card pack offers, as well as lots of new tournaments. And also, if you guys download the app right now, put in the promo code that I use in the pinned comment and the description, and you'll get 100 coins worth $8. To be able to redeem your coins, make sure you go to the settings button on the top left corner of the app, and of course, go to the green redeem voucher button and enter in my unique code. And that's until January 15th, so make sure you get on that and redeem as fast as you can. But make sure you guys go in the description, download World Hockey Manager, and create the hockey franchise of your dreams. Thank you so much to World Hockey Manager for sponsoring today's video, and let's get right back to it. Now let's start out today's video with the first mock trade of the day for Bo Horvat, and it all depends on whether the Canucks are actually fine trading within the division. If they are, to me, I think the Seattle Kraken are a fantastic natural fit. Now, going on to what the trade could be, for me, my mock trade involving them, Bo Horvat would go on to Seattle in exchange for centerman Alexander Wenberg. You get defenseman Will Borgen, a bottom 6 guy in Ryan Donato, and a 2023 first round pick. Now, to me, this checks a lot of boxes. Even though you might not get the center upgrade you want, I think you get a pretty good upgrade on defense. Wenberg, him specifically, pretty good defensively and can eat minutes behind Elias Pettersson in that center group, which I think is what Vancouver is still looking for. Will Borgen, to me, is extremely underrated. He has had a great year so far with Seattle and has ate a lot of minutes as well. Ryan Donato can be on a third line, be on a fourth line, can be pretty fluid and can be anywhere you really want him to be, which I think will be valuable. And of course, you got a first round pick on top of things. This might not be the perfect trade for Vancouver, but I think it's pretty solid, all things considered. And I do think Seattle would also have the space to be able to extend Bo Horvat long term. To me, this wouldn't be a rental for the Kraken, and that's why the price might go a little bit higher for them. But also for Seattle, they have a massive problem with faceoffs. They're last in the league, and right now Bo Horvat is rocking a 57% faceoff percentage. That would be a huge boost, and if they're going to make the playoffs, would be a huge boost come playoff time. Next up, let's go on to the second mock trade for Bo Horvat. And this one is a little bit wild, but hear me out. If he goes to the St. Louis Blues, I think this trade will have to happen in order for it to actually go down. Let's talk about the second mock trade involving Ryan O'Reilly. And for the actual mock trade itself, to the St. Louis Blues will be Bo Horvat. In exchange of Vancouver, Ryan O'Reilly, with him also being a rental, will have 25% retained, on top of Nico Mikkola, Ivan Barbashev, and a 2023 third-round pick. To me, this is interesting because, again, if the Blues are going to sign Bo Horvat long-term, if they're even going to acquire him, to me, I think somebody on that Blues roster needs to go. They already got Thomas, they already got Kyrie, they already got Shen, and of course, they got Ryan O'Reilly. A lot of guys that can play center if they need to. So if St. Louis is going to be a fit, which I think would be a really good one, by the way, somebody has to go, and it could be a captain for captain trade, with Ryan O'Reilly going to the Canucks, and of course, Bo Horvat going to St. Louis. With me, at least, Bo Horvat is the much better player than Ryan O'Reilly at this point, at least with how Ryan O'Reilly has kind of declined in ways. But for Vancouver, they could still use him in a pretty solid second line role behind Elias Pettersson in more defensive situations, which I think would be pretty interesting. And you also got, of course, a good depth, big defenseman in Nico Mikkola, and Ivan Barbashev, who got 60 points last year. And even though he's not on that type of tear right now, I still think can do big things for them, especially in Vancouver, can do pretty solid. But at the same time, it just depends on what Vancouver wants, because if they want players right now, St. Louis has a lot of options, but not many guys where prospect-wise, they're going to be all too happy with. But it's kind of all up to St. Louis and whether they do want to trade a guy like Ryan O'Reilly, because I think if they're going to trade for Bo Horvat, that's what it will take. And what's really important as well is that Ryan O'Reilly has no trade protection, no move clause, no trade clause. So going to Vancouver, going to Canada wouldn't be a problem. Now let's move on to the third trade for Bo Horvat, and another team that really depends on if the Canucks are fine trading within the division, because to me also Vegas would be a really interesting fit for him. Now going on to what the trade could actually look like, to me there are a lot of interesting options, but to me the big one involved will be William Karlsson. As for the deal itself, to Vegas will go Bo Horvat, potentially on a long-term deal. We'll have to wait and see for that. But going back Vancouver's way is William Karlsson, defenseman Zach Whitecloud, and a depth player in Paul Cotter as well. And to me, this checks a lot of the boxes. And even though in some ways I might think it might be a slight overpayment for Vegas, Bo Horvat would be really interesting in a second-line center role behind Chandler Stevenson, where you can just let Stevenson ride and die, go flying out there and get all the offensive responsibilities, while you have Bo Horvat in more of a face-off, defensive, and still finishing role. And come playoff time, I think the Vegas Golden Knights will really appreciate that. Even though William Karlsson is still excellent offensively, can bring a lot, he's not exactly a shutdown center and a guy that Vegas could really use in that position. And even though Zach Whitecloud would also be a big loss, and I think maybe the biggest loss in this trade potentially, to me, Bo Horvat's defensive play might counter that as well with how good he can be at points. And then you got Paul Cotter on top of things. But again, I think this all depends on whether, one, Vancouver wants to trade within the division, and two, if Vegas is able to re-sign Bo Horvat long-term, because if they can, I think they'll make this trade happen. But if it's only a rental, it definitely is a lot more than it should be. If it's only for a rental, Zach Whitecloud probably isn't a part of things. Maybe you have a first-round pick instead of that, but at the same time, there's a lot of options for a Vegas trade. Now let's move on to the fourth mock trade for Bo Horvat, and a team that I think makes a lot of sense. Now, if it's going to be more than just a pure rental type of trade, then we'll obviously have to wait and see. To me, I think Vancouver and Carolina would be a great trade target, especially if Vancouver still wants to get more futures rather than current players. But hear me out here. If Vancouver really wants to upgrade potentially in a couple of positions, I think Carolina could still pull the trigger on a trade like this. Going on to what the trade to Bo Horvat to Carolina could potentially look like, let's go on to a crazy one. To Carolina will be Bo Horvat, Luke Shen, and a 2023 fourth-round pick, which will be the New York Rangers. In exchange, the Canucks will get Brett Pesce and Jesperi Kotkaniemi. And this, to me, is pretty interesting. You, of course, exchange centers, you exchange defensemen, and the Carolina Hurricanes get a pick as well on top of things. But it's kind of what you prefer. With the Carolina Hurricanes, you're getting the much better centerman, while the Canucks, I would say, are getting the much better defenseman long-term. But, of course, with Carolina, they get both Bo Horvat and Luke Shen, who could both be rentals. Luke Shen, especially, though, that defensive responsibility in his own side could be really valuable for the Carolina Hurricanes and could push them over the top into being hopefully a top 4 team in the NHL, being in that conference race, potentially going on the cup final, potentially winning it. And Bo Horvat would be huge for that center situation if you're able to have him instead of a guy like Jesperi Kotkaniemi at that second center spot for the playoffs. That would give them way more flexibility and a lot more of a structured lineup defensively. And to me, I think there will be a lot to gain from that type of trade, even if they might be losing out a little bit long-term offensively on defense. But to me, if the Canucks want to potentially upgrade, Brett Pesce would be a really interesting target. And also the fact that his deal is up after next season, that's something that Carolina is going to be watching for. Probably won't be able to re-sign too big long term, but the Canucks, if they are going to trade Bo Horvat, might have the flexibility to do so. And of course, in some ways for Carolina, they don't have to pay Jesperi Kotkaniemi $4.8 million, and maybe for the Canucks, they see it as something that they can reclaim and hopefully get his career back going, but it would be a crazy trade to actually see happen. But now going on to the fifth Bo Horvat trade, and of course with the fifth one, you guys know I like to go a little bit crazy, a little bit wild, but I have a proposal. Let's say the Vancouver Canucks and the Winnipeg Jets decide to spark a trade and trade two guys that likely won't be re-signing, won't be staying with their team for much longer. Going on to my fifth mock trade, what if the Vancouver Canucks traded Bo Horvat to the Jets in exchange for Pierre-Luc Dubois? And this to me would be pretty crazy if the Canucks are sure that they can keep Dubois around and sign him long term. To me, this checks a lot of boxes for both teams. With Dubois is still very, very young and still reaching his potential, has had a great season so far, and offensively can be in a great role behind Elias Pettersson and on a solid power play. As for the Jets, they get a lot more structured center-wise with Bo Horvat and a lot more flexible, I would say, in their situation. And I think they're a team that would love to bring on Bo Horvat long term and have him as a core part of that team and a great leader to bring onto that team as well, and in a lot of ways can finish what some of those playmakers might be starting, especially once Ehlers comes back. I think that would be an excellent fit to have. But I think if both of these guys are going to sign long term, this could be a deal that helps out both squads. And to me, I think it would be extremely interesting. And if Bo Horvat wants to go to a much better team, I mean, Winnipeg is in the race right now. They're pretty likely to make the playoffs. And as of right now, it could be pretty crazy. I don't see it happening. I really don't expect it to happen. But come trade deadline time, if both teams know they're not going to be able to re-sign them, this trade could be really fascinating to see. But let me know in the comments down below what you guys think of my mock trades. Do you think I'm out to lunch right now? Do you agree? Do you disagree with some of the mock trades? Let me know who you think, which ones you guys think are the most likely, which ones you guys think are the least likely, and what your mock trades for Bo Horvat would look like. Let us know down below. And of course, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, and share the video with all your friends. Click this card up here for all of my hockey trade content, run one playlist, and I will see you in the next video or stream. Have a good one, and goodbye.